Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming back to visit me. My name is Danelle and my little crafting YouTube channel is My Gathering Basket, a real collection, a gathering basket of all sorts of making adventures. So what have I been working on since I talked to you last? Okay, first off, I am really sorry the last episode took me so long to get uploaded. But as I pointed out on Instagram, the fact that it took me about almost creeping close to 3 weeks to get that thing published, I actually got a lot of things finished that I had talked about last time. So it's gonna make me sound like I've been over the top productive, but really it's just because we didn't get to chat for quite a while. So here in Southwest Missouri, we are in false spring. It has been beautiful. It's been gloomy, it's been rainy. I'm looking out at my maple tree right at the moment and it is just about ready to, it's kind of that light spring green. However, we're supposed to have snow in a couple days. So the gardens are coming along. I went and checked in the garden just before I came into podcast and the peas are about this tall and we've got broccoli and onions, all the spring crops, potatoes, just poking their heads out of the ground. They should be fine, but my goodness, the garden center I work at, people have been buying tomatoes for 3 or 4 weeks already and I'm really concerned that some people are going to get zapped. So that's just kind of, that's pretty typical. We really can have, we can have snow up to the first week of May, and we have several years in the last few years, if that made any sense. So that's pretty typical for where we live. I am in Southwest Missouri, for those of you that have not joined me before, and if this is your first time popping into my little corner, welcome. And for my long-standing friends, I am so glad that you have stuck with me and that you've come back again. So as far as homestead goes, that's really about all I have to report. Things are gonna get crazy here in a few weeks though. We have a lot of gardening to do as soon as this cold snap passes. Then we should be pretty safe to start getting stuff out. So our little, we've got about a 10 by 16 foot greenhouse or so. It is packed to the gills. We are ready to go as quick as the last freeze is gone. So we'll have snapdragons next, start getting some of our cutting flowers, which speaking of cutting flowers, lilacs are blooming. So yeah, those are real and oh my goodness, the fragrance. I love lilacs. So I have 2 kinds that I cut. This one is kind of a new French hybrid, and then tucked right behind it is the old-fashioned, the real light purple. That's the one that's fragrant. So I put a stem of those and then some of its flashier younger cousins up front just because they're so pretty, but they don't have near the fragrance. So that's about what our garden, my peonies, I have a row of peonies just outside my window here and the buds are getting huge, which it's a little worrisome because they could get frozen out for the year. But we'll take whatever we get and we'll push on. Most of you are not here for the homesteading stuff, so let's get to the fibery part, all right? I have been spinning quite a lot. Last time I showed you this fiber and I told you that I had 5 ounces of it and that was going to be my April spin. I was gonna start it in March and I just got a little bit behind. So this little wad of fiber, I am almost done. This is one bobbin. It's not very evenly spun as far as on the bobbin goes, so I don't have that pretty little cross-laced bobbin to show you. But I do have 2.5 ounces of the first ply, and of what is left, I have about a third of it. I think I've got less than an ounce left to spin. So I should be able to get that one done this week, that ply done this week, and then hopefully end of the week, first part of next, I can get that all plied up. And then, so that'll be 5 ounces of my 8 for the month of April. Do you guys follow Imagine Landscapes, Sarah Shira? She is the gnome creator that I keep making handspun gnomes for, and she teased a tease. Like, she put out an email saying, hey, there's going to be a teaser soon. That made me laugh. But she just did announce that her pattern for the next mystery gnome along is going to be, well, the pattern is for sale to pre-orders, and I believe it's like May 7th. Don't quote me on that. I will put a link to her website, and you can check out the details, but I believe it's May 7th is going to be the first pattern or the clue release. So I've got to get something spun. So I've got until the first part of May, and I went through my stash right before I came on here. I want to make sure I had the label. And I found this. This was another D stash from a friend of mine, and it is Shetland, which you know I like. It's 100% Morit Shetland wool, which Morit is kind of that dark background, so it's been over dyed, which can come up with some really interesting. So it's teals and browns basically, and there is Sarah. That's appropriate. Sarah is the dyer behind Yarn Geek, and she is regionally local to me. She comes to a lot of the fiber shows in my area, so I have met her several times. She is the one who taught me. I was helping a friend in their booth, and it was a downpour, rainy festival outdoors. We were in huge tents, and we literally had rain coming up on the mats that we were standing on in the booth. It was crazy, but because of all that, we didn't have great attendance. So Sarah was in the booth across the path from us, and I kept going back and forth. It was one of the first wool festivals that I went to, I believe. So I was fascinated, and Sarah was working on chain plying something, and I had never seen that before. And so I just kept going over and looking, and if you've ever been to a festival where Sarah is showing, she always is spinning. She's taking care of customers and spinning at the same time. She's amazing. And I finally worked up the nerve to say, tell me what you're doing. And she very generously walked me through step by step and showed me what, I guess I had heard of chain plying, but never really seen it done. And so it was a total mystery. So she showed me how to chain ply, and I came home and practiced, and I still really enjoy it. Every time I chain ply, I think of Sarah from Yarn Geek Fibers. So her colors are really, this is a fairly old one. It doesn't have a date on it, but it's just called Green and Brown. So I couldn't really come up with, when I got this, what I wanted to do with it. So I was looking through it this afternoon, some different options, and I thought, I have a lot of natural hand spun right now because of all the shave 'em to save 'em spinning that I've been doing. So I think what I'm going to do, I was kind of playing with it just a little bit, and the way this is dyed, it's in fairly long segments. So I think I can take this teal out, and I can separate this brown, and then I think if I blend some, I'll get kind of this lighter color. So this new gnome pattern, she released enough details to say you need 3 yarns, 20 grams each. So I've got 4 ounces here, and then like I said, I have plenty of natural already spun up. She says you need a light, medium, and dark. So I'm thinking hat. One color is for the hat. I'll do body, and then I'll either blend and get a 3rd color and use this for my light, or I'll use this for the medium, the dark, and use a natural creamy white. So I've got to get spinning. I've got like a week, 10 days to get this all spun in order to be ready to cast on for the first clue. So that's going to keep my spinning wheel flying. Other spinning news, I did finish, and I don't have it blocked because we had a bunch of rainy days where like the humidity was 80-90% all the time, and you couldn't dry yarn. So I do have my Cotswold spun. This was a shave 'em to save 'em, and rare breed. Cotswold is, I couldn't find a ton of information about it. What I did find, it's pretty much classified in the long wools. However, I like the yarn that I came up with. It does appear on my screen anyway to have a little bit of luster, a little bit of shine, not as much in person. Love the color of it. I did do a 2-ply, fairly thin, but the interesting thing was this was a roving. It had a lot of neps in it, very small, and the VM, it just fell out, which is what the little experience I have with long wools, that's pretty much typical. Like it doesn't have the crimp, it's not high lanolin in my experience. Maybe that's just how I've had it processed. So it doesn't tend to hold on to vegetable matter or even the neps. You can pull out real easy. So that was fantastic compared to some of the fibers I've had. But this was done as a roving, a carded roving instead of a top. And the difference after doing it was kind of startling. I have done long wools, a couple just samples in classes, that kind of thing. And I have several pounds. I've done a couple pounds of Wensleydale that I loved, which was kind of interesting. But when you have a top with a long wool, it's almost like silk. It's shiny and you can do it really fine. It's a lot like doing like spinning silk. So because this was carded, and I really didn't think about it, but this really almost, and it was very short for a long wool. So I don't know if that's kind of typical of Cotswold or not. I would love to get some Cotswold in a top form. And I'm sorry for you folks that don't spin. I'm rambling a lot, but I'm hoping that those of you that are spinners appreciate the details. I do want to get some Cotswold and try it in a top and just see what the difference is. So I need to get this washed and hung out to dry and labeled, because I am lousy at record keeping. So I have a lot of little samples of yarn that I no longer, they're all natural colors, a lot of them white, and I am going to lose track of what's what. So that is my goal for this coming week. Other spinning news, kind of spinning / knitting. I am making progress on my Bly sweater. Finally, I said last time it was starting to look like a sweater. Y'all, it has a sleeve. So I am pretty happy. I have about half of the sleeve done. I'm actually going to make the sleeve just slightly shorter. By repeats, I have another 4 repeats to do, and I think I'm not going to need to do the whole thing. I am starting with the Bly. I think I said this last time. I have the Bly pattern by Amy Christopher's. It's a free pattern. I'm kind of using it like a recipe. It's sort of a suggestion of a place to start. I have modified it heavily, mostly because of gauge, and then a little bit because of fit. But I have about I've got probably about another 5 inches to knit on the body. And then I went ahead and when I got pretty much finished, I think I'm down to about that much yarn. I left a little bit there so that I could kind of ease in. I'd have a couple more rows that I could ease in the next ball. But yeah, I'm like, it's looking sweaterish. So one cool thing is I did get a notice, an email, after my last podcast. One of my friends posted and said, hey, did you see Missouri State Fair is on for this year, but no details yet. So I did get an email this last week, I believe it was, or maybe the week before, saying that they had their premium guide available. The premium guide is what goes through all the different categories, gives the details, the qualifications, any rules and regulations, and then the little prize money that you get if you win. So I haven't opened it up yet, but the wheels are turning. I am thinking I should definitely be able to get that sweater done. Our state fair does have a lot of knitting and crocheting categories. And then our guild, we do have a lot of spinning categories as well. And then our guild 2 years ago started, sponsored I think 6 categories of things for using your hand spun. So weaving, knitting, garments, accessories, and then some other categories as well, just for miscellaneous things. So last year I had lots of hopes, and they ended up basically canceling the fair, so except for the youth events, and this year it's on. So I am hoping to make up for lost time and be able to get a number of things in. So the gnome, 2 years ago, I did enter one of my gnomes, and in the other, I think home decor, maybe category of hand spun. So I'm hoping that I can get at least a sweater done and maybe a hat. I'd like to do a colorwork hat again to enter in hand spun. So I have a lot of work to do, folks. I have got to get spinning things that I can enter. So I think that's going to hopefully motivate me over the next few months. Our fair is in August. I believe, I haven't looked for details, but usually you have to have things entered, or at least there's an admission process kind of thing where you actually have to go online and kind of declare what you're going to be entering. And so you sign up for what you're going to be entering, and then it's due like 2 weeks later or something like that. So it's the end of April, essentially. That's going to be the end of July. I have work to do. I got plenty of time, and yet it's going to come up really, really fast. So let's see, spinning. Oh, and then the other thing on knitting, the sweater is what's had most of my time, but I did finish my first, not woven in the ends yet, but my first of the Mrs. Tiggy socks. So it's not blocked, but just putting it on the blocker, you can see the lace. I really enjoyed, I got to the heel, and I was kind of at the point of, am I going to make it all the way through the foot? But once I got through the heel, which this is a little bit different heel, I'll take it off the blocker here. This is case square heel. You can kind of see it makes this little square on the bottom. Once I got through the heel, I don't know why the pattern just clicked, and then having the rest rows on, just doing the plain stockinette, which the difference, I don't know why, this always amuses me. The difference between a skein knit up in the stockinette and how it looks when it's done in a pattern always fascinates me. So again, this is hedgehog fibers. I have long ago lost the tag, so I do not remember the colorway, but I think that's pretty much what I've been working with knitting wise. Just checking my piles here. I think that's about it. I have been doing lots of crocheted dishcloths. The little gift shop that I sell, I vend my dishcloths and rugs at, always gets busy closer to Mother's Day. So I just dropped off a big sack full of dishcloths yesterday at the shop, and I need to get ahead on a few more. So that's really been taking up my crafting time. And then the other thing, and this is exciting because it's on my Make 9. I did do a Make 9 board. I make them every year and don't get very far on them, but Mrs. Tiggy, the socks are one of my Make 9 patterns, and I am half done and a smidge more. So that one is there, and then I believe the Bly cardigan is another one, and it's over half done. I have another, no I don't, I have another sock pattern that I downloaded. It's another one of Kay Jones, Bakery Bears fame, and she's the designer of the Mrs. Tiggy sock. So her heel was different, and she also does does she call it the umbrella toe? It's the rounded toe. And I wasn't sure I would like that, but I actually did. So I have another one of her patterns that I downloaded, I started reading, but I haven't cast on yet. So that will be coming up. But this was another one of my Make 9s. This is the terrarium quilt. And the fabrics at this point probably aren't available unless you could find them like on Etsy or something like that. It's been probably 2 years since I bought this fabric. So I don't know that you can get the fabrics, but I will try to put a link to the pattern. The pattern was a free pattern, and honestly, I think it would be great with just about any panel quilt. So I will try. I have not been able to get a good picture of the whole quilt, but you can kind of see at least a quarter of it. It had this great, the fabric line had this great border print. So I put that on, and then I learned a lot about triangles. And some of these are absolutely perfect, and some of them are not quite so. Yeah, so there's a few places where some of my corners are not quite accurate. But overall, I really kind of, let's see if I can get out of the way. And it's kind of got a center medallion where two of these come together. So that is ready for quilting, and I just have not quite decided how I want to put it on. I'll quilt it on my long arm. I just haven't decided exactly how I want to do it. So for right now, I'm just using it kind of as a, well, actually I had it folded up on the shelf in my long arm room. So, but I am thrilled to have this all done and ready to quilt. It was one of the kits that I just really wanted to get made up. I don't know if I'll keep it or gift it, but for now, at least the kit is done. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, I spend a lot of time, and any long armor is going to probably spend a lot of time testing patterns. So before I take somebody's quilt and try a new pattern on it, I want to try quilting it on something, on a sample. So it's kind of like swatching. And one of the ladies in my, one of my long arm professional guild that I'm in, designed her first pantograph, which is the design, the quilt design. And she did a knit stitch. So it's called the chunky knit stitch, which is a perfect name for it. I really, I did this one as a, like, bigger than it would probably normally be. And since then I've done another quilt that I did it about half that size, and I really liked it. But this was what I started doing. I do work very, very occasionally, like one Saturday a month at our local quilt shop, just to give them a break. And they had a huge sale, including their discount fabrics, their clearance fabrics. So I just went in and I bought, I think it was like 60 yards of fabric. So at just a couple dollars a yard. And what I'm doing is making, probably gonna just do lap blankets that I can gift, like, to a nursing home, or you know, just use them as utility throws or whatever. But it gives me a chance to make a usable swatch. So this is just a kind of a vintage reproduction fabric, and I really like how this knit stitch on a busier fabric, and the quilt that I did, it didn't take away from the quilt on the top. I thought it would be a little bit, because it is such a bold pattern, I thought it might be in danger of taking away from it, but it doesn't. And then when you have it on a solid, it really does look like a big chunky knit stitch. So as a knitter and a quilter, I had to get this, and I already have a couple more quilts of my own that I'm going to be putting this on. Another lady came up with a purl stitch. So I am busily morphing my interests between knitting and quilting and testing out patterns, but I was pretty excited about this one because who doesn't want a big knitted quilt, right? So that's been fun, and I've been doing a lot of other quilting. I very judiciously record in this little corner of my room because it's probably the only place that's not completely messed up with fabric cutting, stacks, and this and that in progress. My whole house is pretty much a fiber studio. So down there I have 2 more quilts that are in progress as far as cutting, and then I have a stack behind you of about 5 quilts that I need to bind, some for customers and some of my own. We are in graduation season, so I am doing a lot of t-shirt quilts for people. Some of them custom start to finish, like they mail me the t-shirts and I mail them a quilt, and others that people have done and I am just adding the quilting. So It's been busy between work and trying to get started in the garden and keep up with quilting and sneak in some spinning and some knitting. So that's where I am right now. I hope that spring is blossoming where you are. There's just so much new stuff, new things popping out all the time to watch. So I hope you are getting to enjoy some of that and be outside a little bit more and still get some crafting done. So until I get to see you again, may your gathering basket just overflow with blessings. Hope to see you soon. Bye for now.